Mighty Arjuna, the forces of nature are harmony, restless activity, and inactivity, sattva, rajas, and tamas. They arise from the creative energy, prakriti, which binds the indestructible one fast to the physical body.
We'll start because we have a lot to cover in the next few weeks. So today, chapter 17 is about yoga and the threefold faith. What does that mean? Here Shri Krishna, the teacher, the inner teacher, the guru within, is telling Arjuna, different people worship in different ways, And to make it very practical and very clear, he explains the different ways of worship. Now, why is this so important? Because when you listen to this, you can put yourself in one of those categories. And if you're in a category that you don't like yourself, I'm going to make a shift in this category. It's practical, it's deep, and it's truthful. So, and it makes it very clear. I remember when I read this chapter many, many years ago and heard Swami Satchidananda's translation, I felt it just made it very clear how I'd like to practice spiritually. Very, very clear. No, because we can go all over the place when you're in the spiritual world. We get so excited. We want to dabble in everything. So we dabble in so many things that our minds go everywhere and there's no one-pointedness. We get lost in the mishmash of spirituality. We get lost in the mishmash of the occult, and it's nothing to do with that. And I keep telling everybody again and again, look at the greatest masters. How did they live? Purely, simply, do good, be good, effective, service, love, kindness. Everything we covered last week. Last week we covered yoga of the divine and demonic state. And what was the divine state? The divine state was when you were kindness, goodness, all these wonderful things. And he told Arjuna, when you live like this, don't worry, no harm will come to you. And then there's a demonic state where you have arrogance, conceit, one thinks of them as themselves as God and owner of this and that, and just after lust, power, and money. How do they live? Living hell. And they come back again and again and again to this planet and go through a lot of pain. Because they cause a lot of pain. So here last week he was talking about karma, how to live, and what qualities you should develop and what qualities we should all avoid. Now when you see it on black and white, you have to examine yourself. And this is what's so important, because it's very easy to have the knowledge without doing the work on oneself. And that's the only way we can do it, on ourselves. And that is when the healing happens, and that's when the healing comes to us. Because we can hear a lot of things, but we need to practice what we hear, not just talk about it. So let's start on chapter 17, Sloka 1. Arjuna said, O Krishna, how do you regard the devotion of those who disregard the ordinance in scripture, the Shastras, but nevertheless offer sacrifices with sincere faith? Is such worship motivated by pure, restless, or listless qualities? Now he's just asking, what do you think about those people who have devotion, but they don't follow all these ordinances, What kind of worship is it, Is that valid kind of worship? Is this worth anything? And the Blessed Lord said, there are three qualities of active belief. Depending on one's temperament, each person is endowed predominantly with Shraddha. Shraddha means complete faith in what they're doing. That is either pure, which is the sattvic quality, passionate, which is rajasic quality, or dull tamasic quality. So we say, basically, you can, dissect the human race of those people who have a faith in 3 kinds of ways, 3 kinds of qualities. 3. The faith of each person, Arjuna, is in accord with his own nature. The quality of a person's active belief is indeed the very nature of the person. As his faith is, so is he or she. So he said, it depends on your personality, who you are. That's how you practice. And this becomes even more interesting. 4. Those who are pure by nature worship one form of God or another, the devas. The restless-minded worship power and wealth, yakshas and rakshasas. The others who are benighted think only of spirits and ghosts. So he says there are 3 ways. Now, the first way is when you just think of that one, what we call the one cosmic consciousness, or the divine manifestations that can appear in many gods and goddesses. But they focus on that one divine energy. Now, the restless ones would be, he says, they pray or they worship, but they really want wealth and power. And then we know people like that. They go to church to pray, may have so many millions, or they go to temples or Hindu temples, may have so many gold coins. I mean, I've met a lot of people like that and still keep meeting people like that. And they pray for wealth and they pray for that kind of thing all the time. But it doesn't mean they have faith. They do have faith. It's just that's where their faith is based. They're still attached to material things. And when you're very attached to material things, you become very restless if you don't get them. Right? You become restless. So he said, this is very rajasic, because you're praying, dear God, if you give me £1 million, I'll be I'll fast for a month, or I won't travel for a year, but I need so much money. It's like doing business with the divine. That's their faith. And there are many people in that category too. And those who are benighted think only of spirits and ghosts. And they are in kind of dull phase. Why? What we call tamas. Because they're depending on spirits and ghosts to guide them. Is there anything wrong with mediumship? No. There is, what happens is when you cannot continue your life and you depend on mediums. I'll give you a really good example of that, because our master always said, why do you want to deal with all these things? As a child, I used to see lots of things. I used to be very frightened. I used to see good things and I used to see horrible things. And I get nightmares, etc. And then when I had my first child at the age of 21, I actually saw a beautiful image. And it was my grandmother who had passed away, and she was there in front of me, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I just had my baby by my side. And she said something to me, Nalanie, why don't you give me flowers? You're the only grandchild that did not fly to Hong Kong, because I just had the baby, to be at my funeral. Would you give me flowers? And there's a long story with that, but I won't go into it today. But I don't know what happened to me. After that, I just don't want to see anything anymore. I remember waking my husband up and said, my grandmother was here, but I don't want this gift anymore. I don't want this gift. I have a child to look after. I just need to be focused on my child. I don't want all these spirits and ghosts to visit me. I need to focus on my child. I don't want to be distracted. And then I actually really prayed and said, if I have to know anything from the other world, please come in a dream. Ever since then, I get all my messages from people in dreams, and it's brilliant because there's no interference. They come when you need them, and you're not forcing them to come to you. It's really different, because if you open your doors to the world of spirits, you open, like my master said, Nalanie, why would you want to do that? Because not only if you open your doors, you can get not only the angels, you can also get the demons. And the demons are looking for you when you're weak, and then they'll try to overpower you. Because they're looking for bodies, because they're lost. They're lost in that dimension. So I thought after that, I'm so glad I said that. So here, it's not that it's wrong or right, but it can mislead people into a lot of things. I give you an example that is practical of everyday living. When my husband was very sick, and I knew, my daughter and I really knew he didn't have much time on earth. The doctor said with chemo, instead of 6 weeks, he would have a year. But it didn't look like it, and I couldn't see my husband being a person who would suffer all that comes with chemo, but he wanted the chemo. And I was adverse to it. So anyway, I knew we didn't have time. He was getting thinner and thinner, and some family members called me. And one of the females said to me, "Oh, Nalanie, you're so negative." Because I said, if you want to see him, please come now. Please come now. If you love him so much, because it was a relative, please come now. "Oh, you're just so negative." And I said, I'm not negative, being realistic. You know, I'm being realistic. I can see his body deteriorating. We need to prepare. No, you're wrong. I went to my medium, and she's the most incredible medium. And she said by February, now this is end of November, he will be 100% well. Okay, 100% well. And of course, that's what I wanted. Can you imagine my heart flip? You know, with that hope. And at the same time, I was preparing for him to go. But then I remember my guru's words, don't listen to any of this. Don't listen to this stuff. So I just ignore it. But it was behind. Then I had somebody else who called me from Hong Kong. And she said, "Oh my God, Nalanie, I went to my Buddhist Lama, my Buddhist priest who advises me on everything. And he said the same thing, that he's going to get better by February." So, you know, this kind of went in my mind, and I'm quite a strong person. I just wanted to look at the situation every day as it was. And if he was going to go, I needed to give my husband the most incredible spiritual strength, but I needed the strength first. Otherwise, I'd be no use to him at the most important time of his life, his transition to the next world. And I didn't want it to be about me wanting to pull him back because they told me these things. So, and of course, he died November 23rd. But what I thought, that it was quite cruel. And I told them when they came to, after he died, they missed the boat. And I said, what you did to me was a little cruel. And I explained why. I said, but I know you did it because you meant the best. But please, have you seen it's not accurate? It's not accurate. As a result, who suffered? I'm strong enough, at least I knew. You suffered because you believed them and you didn't come in time. Now there is so much guilt in your heart. Do you see? They suffered in the end. And then also I know people, so many people that cannot make their own decisions because they have to get a tarot card reader, they have to get somebody to help them along all the time. Now, I think these things are necessary when you need them at the right time, at the right place, at the right moment, right? They're necessary because they help people through difficult times. But when you become totally dependent on that world of ghosts and spirits, you can get caught in their whirlpool and they use you. Sometimes what they tell you is not truthful. It's not truthful, because I've had that happen to me a few times, and I just ignore those words and those sounds, and I focus on what is the divine telling me from deep within. And this is why everybody says the spiritual, trust the guru within you. You're your best guru, you're your best teacher. Trust that inner voice, keep it simple, because when there's not so much stuff and interference, it's kind of like a radio station, right? When you're trying to tune in my car especially, and I want a special station, if I'm not directly get there, I get interference. So our minds are radio stations. So when we keep it too wide open and we're not selective. Selective means living in pure love and acceptance. That's hard to do, you know. And this is why we practice to live in that purity of mind and acceptance. The plan is perfect. I only have to love each moment, even though it's so painful. And that's discriminative discernment. The best answers come to you because the mind is quiet. Sri Patanjali talks about Ishvara Pranidhanam, surrender to the divine, surrender to the universe. You cannot control anything. And when you surrender, all the answers come. And my answer came from the universe because I asked. Because I was so confused, you know, what should I do? Should I tell him to live or should I let him go? So I asked, I said, dear Lord, if he's going to go, please give me a sign. The sign I want is a bright, big butterfly. Big. I said bright and big. December the 9th, about 14 days before he passed, and I made that request December the 7th. I was living in near Estepona at that time, in an apartment, and I went down. I was teaching around that area in somebody's house, and I went down to thank all the students who were so kind. They were all helping. They were all bringing food to me every evening for my husband, and they were all taking turns. I went to tell them I really appreciated that I would not be around until my husband was better, and forgive me, but I just needed to focus on him. Anyway, Shanti from Gibraltar gives me a big parcel. Nalanie, you got this parcel in Gibraltar. I thought I'd deliver to you. Must be a Christmas present. So I went home, rushed home. Next morning, I didn't even open the parcel. I was sitting at breakfast with my daughter-in-law, who so wonderfully came to help us out, Harsha, and I opened the parcel, and out came a bright fuchsia sequined butterfly. You know, one that's decorative, that you hang on walls, that they sell in the China shops as well, but really this size. In fact, it just got burnt by the sun last year. After 13 years, I had it in my temple. This size, literally, and I went, ah! I knew now. Time to prepare him. And I actually, because they say in our tradition it's very lucky if you read chapter 18 of the Bhagavad Gita when somebody is leaving. And when my sister, before she passed also, she said to me, if you come to the hospital when I go, will you read to me chapter 18? And I did. She wasn't conscious, but I did. So I started reading chapter 18 to my husband. Every day a little. So that was my sign. So you see, you get the sign. So the person who sent it to me, Janaki, Jenny, and I asked her why, because if you know her, she's such a simple girl. She would never buy a sequin butterfly. So I asked her, why on earth did you buy me that butterfly? And she said to me, you know, it was I must tell you about Jenny. Jenny is very psychic and she sees a lot of things. She gets lots of visions too. So she's always had that gift as a child. So she said she was driving in her car and she saw this butterfly in this window. She actually stopped the car, parked the car and said, I have to buy this for Nalanie. I don't know if Nalanie is the type of person who would like this kind of butterfly, but I have to get it for her. And that was 2 weeks before my request. To arrive on the 9th, I made the request on the 7th. The universe already knew I was going to make the request. It's quite incredible. It's all there. And then I thought, you never let me down. God, you never let me down. You even prepare me. So I was prepared, and I could prepare my husband. So there was beautiful death in the horrible pain. And so this is why I think it's really, really important to build that inner connection with the divine. You and the divine. My master was so clear on this. Why you want to complicate your life? Of course all these things exist, and they're very nice and they're very tempting, but the best gift is to develop your inner spirit and connect with me directly, and you will get all the answers you need. So it was such good advice. 5. Those who choose extreme or violent austerities, not advised in the scripture, are hypocrites motivated by ego, lust, and personal attachments. They are fools to torture their innocent bodies. So for in their demonic resolve, they also torture me, because I live in their very bodies. Now here Krishna is saying, I, the divine, live in all your bodies. And you know, all these people who flagellate themselves, who put pins in themselves. Oh, I'm a yogi, so I'm going to put 5 pins on myself. I'm going to not eat for 6 months. Those people who torture their bodies, torture me that lives in their bodies. Remember Buddha, when he was trying to find the path to the divine, what is it all about? Or what was life all about? What is the truth? And he discovered consciousness. Well, when he tried to starve himself, it didn't work. It didn't work. And then he finally learned it was the path of moderation. So many times people, in the name of, oh, you know, I'm so brilliant, I'm doing this austerity to God, I'm doing that. They're really not doing it for the divine. They're torturing their bodies for themselves to show people, look at me. It just didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. So this is what it's saying. No, you don't need to do this. Why are you torturing me? I'm giving you this body to live a good life, not to be tortured. You know, and those people who do that normally are very, if you notice, they're very egotistical. Yeah, they're very egotistical because they think, you see, I'm so brave, I'm so incredible, I can walk through fire, I can do this. All those gifts are for this earth. When you lose your body, do they worth anything? Are they worth anything? So people tell me I can walk through fire. It's brilliant. I don't want to walk through fire. That's not my desire in life. My desire in life is to find the truth and love God and be with the divine while I'm living on this earth, and know that I am not Nalanie, and know, which I really do know, I'm not Nalanie, and to make the best use of this body as I've been given, good body, health, good things. I got to make the best use for God. Do you see? When you live like, I'm going to live for the divine, and because I'm living for the divine, I have to behave my best. I have to be so truthful. I don't want to cause violence to anyone. I want to serve, love, give, meditate, realize, be pure, think good thoughts. That's what I need to do. So I need to watch myself that I don't do any harm. There's so much work in that you'll never be bored. We constantly, as a human being, we have to battle with our mind, like Arjuna is here, battling with his mind. You know, how do I do this? And how do I do this? And how do I go forth in life? And he points out so simply how to do it. He's not saying anything is wrong, you see, which is what I love about it. He just says that the world has these kind of things. Know which way you are going, so you can follow the path that takes you straight. 7. Those with one of these 3 differing qualities of faith also prefer 3 different types of food, perform their duties and take on disciplines in 3 different ways, and give charity, each in their own way. Listen, and I will distinguish one form or another to you. 8. Those of tranquil temperament, sattvic, prefer foods that increase vitality, longevity, and strength. Foods that enhance physical health and make the mind pure and cheerful. Foods with substance and natural flavor. Foods that are fresh with natural oils and agreeable to the body. Now you think this text is how many thousands of years old? And now modern holistic doctors only in the last years are talking about food. But they've always talked about food. Food that is fresh, crispy. Don't you, when you see a beautiful lettuce in summer, you just want to, like, it's so delicious. Or a kiwi when you cut it, or a fresh orange. It's so I love lemons. So lemons to me, you can see my glasses full of lemons. They just make me happy. So foods talk to you. So he's saying, when your nature is very sattvic, quiet, peaceful, and these are the foods that will be attracted to you. 9. Those of a restless, compulsive temperament, rajasic, prefer foods that are very spicy or very sour, piping hot, bitter dry, and quite salty. Such foods give rise to discomfort, pain, and disease, and therefore dismay. So, for example, in India, lots of people eat very spicy food, right? And so do they in Thailand. But those people, I asked my father about this when he was alive. My father said the reason why they eat so spicy food in hot countries is because it works as an antibiotic. There's so much bacteria in these countries, right? If you go to India or you go to Bangkok, they always say, wash everything, be careful, don't have salads there. But you eat a lot of chilies. My father says it kills all the parasites, right? So it's a time and a place to eat these kind of foods. But if your system is not used to it, don't, because just because they do it in India or Thailand, your body may not be used to it. 10. It's practical advice, don't you think? This is the Bhagavad Gita, but it's so practical. Those of a dull and lazy temperament, tamasic, choose foods that are stale and tasteless, overcooked or left overnight, spoiled, rotting, or even putrid. Such foods have lost all their vitality and nutrition. And people like that, right? They keep food in the fridge for days and days and it looks quite rotten. I don't know. I've gone to some homes and I've seen that and I go, how many days has this been there? It almost feels like, and I go to fridges and they're so full of food. And I go, why is your fridge so full of food? How can 2 or 3 people eat so much food? Because it gets rotten and then people don't want to throw it away and then they put it in their bodies. It's not so good. Always better to buy less than more. You can always get more. And also these foods are canned foods. How long have they been in a can? How can't they have nutrition? I really believe that's why so many people today have cancer. And some of the frozen foods, sometimes I do have frozen foods because I'm in a rush, but I will always have vegetables with it, fresh ones, just to have something to chew, like corn, because sometimes I need to chew. But once in a while, many people just live on frozen foods. Now, that really is not good for you. So be careful with the diet. There was a lovely book I read many years ago, and it was a German authoress, and it was called Gut, G-U-T. And it's all about nutrition and how different people from different parts of the world have different bacteria to deal with different foods. For example, I am brought up in Hong Kong where we eat a lot of tofu, okay, as children. But what happened recently in the West, many people started to become vegetarians and they weren't brought up with tofu or soya products. And suddenly they're starting to eat a lot of soya products. And now they're saying these soya products is cancer producing. Why? Because they don't have the bacteria in the gut to have the soya products every single day. It's once in a while. They're good. Again, always going back to moderation. Moderation, once in a while. But in the East, we're actually quite used to it because the Chinese eat it a lot. So also, like for example, like I said, I love delicious salads, but don't give me a salad in winter. I get sick because I wasn't brought up with salads in the winter. I can't eat cold fruits in the morning. It makes me ill. So know yourself, okay, with the foods. And if you eat the wrong food, for example, Ayurveda is very good at this. I'm not an expert, but it'd be a great thing to study about your body type and what kind of food to eat. And then you know what is good for you. 11. Any devoted action offered up without desire for reward, okay, any devoted action offered without any desire for reward, but with the entire mind focused on the action for its own sake, is the true spirit of scripture and is pure sattvic sacrifice. In other words, you work for love. You expect no rewards. You do it because you love to do it. And this is pure. Is it wrong for people who are in this field, healers, etc., to receive money? Absolutely not. Our Gurudev said, you have to cover your expenses to live. You don't want to beg. So you need to have your food, you need to pay your rent. So cover, but don't be greedy. That's all. Don't make money the goal. Make service the goal. So I love it when I meet practitioners who say, if people can't afford it, I do give them a little bit of a discount, or I don't even charge them. But if I need it and they can afford it, then I charge them. It's very easy. It's going with the flow of divine will, and you're not closing. I've always said that to all my students. Always, if people can't afford it, don't even worry about it. Let them come free. Let them come free. We don't, in our centers, we just have baskets. Give what you want, do what you like, because it's the easiest way. We're very happy. But then once in a while when we do a course, we have to charge, because then we have to cover our expenses. But we always give tithing to our charity, always a percentage to the charity. Whatever we do with all our centers and all my students, they as well, even if they take, they always give something back to the universe. So this is the way of pure sattvic action. Okay? However, Arjuna, any offering made with expectation of a reward for doing so, or for show, is motivated by restless and desirous rajasic mental tendency. He said, well, we do things and you're just showing off, look how good I am, or you will always feel restless. Ego. Yeah. Because if somebody doesn't like your work, you get offended, you get in a bad mood, you don't want to talk to them again, because it's based on ego. It's not based on, I'm at peace. I did it with my best intention. You're not happy. It's your ego, it's not me. You can recognize that very easily, okay? Because they want something back in return. And so people want something all the time. Is it wrong to want something? No, but don't let the want control you. This is the whole idea of the Gita. Don't allow that to control you. Be in control. And of course, in life, we will have lots of tests to build our spiritual muscles, And of course, yogis get really hurt and we get lots of problems, but that's to test us, to see how we can overcome things, And of course, sometimes it's the other way around. When you see people taking advantage of you sometimes because you're so kind and so good, then you also need to point out, it is only right to share what you have. And people don't like it, but you have to do that too. Being a teacher is not that easy. Because you really have to come from a place of love and really what is best for the person. What is best for the person? 13. A sacrifice offered without appropriate prayers, mantras, and gifts, without active belief, and without sharing food afterward, is not in the spirit of scripture and is based on ignorance of the truth. So many times, people will worship and they'll do lots of prayer ceremonies, a lot of rituals, but they're really just doing it because they're doing it. There's no feeling in it. There's no offering in it. There's no, I'm doing this this prayer ceremony so people can benefit. It's just, and I think we've all seen it in different religions. They'll do rituals and prayers, and it's like, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Om Mani Padme Hum, and sprinkle the gods, and there's no devotion. And this is tamas, is mechanical. That's what it's saying. It's not really done from the heart. It has no value. It's just lazy. They just got a job. They're just doing it because there's nothing else to do in their lives. And it's a lazy way out. And you should always offer something. This is why in our centers, all our centers, we always have some chocolate or some biscuits that people can have on the way out. It's open. Help yourself to tea, drinks, everything. It must have some kind of offering. And this is done in true spirit. 14. These are the physical disciplines, tapas, serving God. Now, tapas we think of as accepting pain for purification. But tapas actually means sometimes when you have to do some kind of practice, it actually burns you a little. Like forgiveness, for example. Somebody hurts you a lot. You really don't want to forgive. But unless you forgive, you're not free. So the actual act of forgiveness can bring a lot of pain because you really don't want to do it, but you want to do it to be free of it. So the initial stages of tapas can be burning. But it's good for you because it'll clear you. And once you forgive, you become free. The physical disciplines, tapas, and one way to become free is serving God. The twice born. What does the twice born mean? It means people who take a second birth to teach spiritual knowledge. So you've got the wise one, the sages, people who decide to come to this earth only to teach that which is spiritual. Spiritual teachers and the wise, staying pure, virtuous, continent, and practicing non-injury. So continence is balance, not too much of lust, not too little. Some people think of it as a celibacy, but for the householder it isn't. Very few people can observe that. Continent is, again, middle path. Everything in moderation. And practicing non-injury. Really practice. When your mouth gets angry, when your head gets angry, when you're in the fluff, really practice this tapas, which is burning, and try to hold back and transfer that anger into compassion. How do you do that? By focusing on the divine, by doing a mantra, by doing bhakti yoga, by seeing, for me, seeing my Gurudev, or seeing my dad's face, or seeing my grandchildren's face. They just light up your life, or sometimes seeing a wonderful student who's done so well in their lives, and you want to celebrate with them. It just makes you happy. So you take the focus from yourself to something that is elevating, something that makes you happy, something that nature, the sea, whatever is in your own nature, what you love. I love people, so I like to see faces. So it is really up to you, what you love to see. Some people love to see animals. I have quite a few students who say to me, and they're really upset, their dog or the cat is the one who really teaches them to be peaceful. So, and there are many people who do that. It's really interesting. 15. These are the disciplines of speech. This is how you should speak. Speaking truthfully, pleasantly, and kindly, with words that do not excite others, and reading scripture, swadhyaya. Why? Because when you read things like this, it elevates your mind. Always try to be truthful in everything you do. And use your words pleasantly and try to be kind. And do not use words to excite others. Like, oh, do you know what happened? And da-da-da-da-da. And do you know what she did or he did? And you don't know what they did. And it excites others and it creates an energy of pain and sorrow and gossip and it creates gossip and it goes wildfire. And so many people are upset by just one, maybe sometimes one person just acting like this, it goes around the group, then everybody goes home and everybody's disturbed and it's going in their head because one person got them so confused. So watch your words. Watch your words. 16. These are the mental disciplines. So this is what you practice with your mind. The other one was speech. The other one was body, right? So mind, tranquility, keep it calm, gentleness, good-heartedness, have silence in your life, self-control, and purity of thought. Even this one sloka, read it again and again and again and again and again and again, and you will find peace. 17. When these three disciplines are practiced with zeal and sincerity and without looking for some personal gain, then this is pure tapas. When you practice like that, it is pure. It is so pure. They say when you practice tapas, we call this sacrifice, because there's a lot of sacrifice in the beginning, isn't it? When somebody hurts you and you want to fight back and you can't, you know that fighting back is not the way. You really, really do suffer. But it's pure because you know it is cleaning you up from all the unnecessary negativity, anger, guilt, fear. You know the end result is going to give you freedom. So this is pure thinking. This is the way, pure thinking. No guilt, no fear, no worry. That's what this person thinks. I am coming from this angle. My goal is peace, and I'm not going to allow anybody to take that away from me. In love, I let go. In love, I let go. Never in pain or anger. And if you can't do it, practice until you get it, okay? It does take practice. It does take time. Don't expect everything to happen in a day. It doesn't. It may take years sometimes, but be patient with yourself. Please, it's worth it. 18. Disciplines taken on with the object of gaining respect, honors, and admiration are performed for show and motivated by compulsive desires, rajas. Such disciplines are not dependable and in time fall away. Now, sometimes people do things just because they want to be recognized. We all know people like that. I want to be recognized. I want to be in the newspaper. Oh, I did this. Put me on the news. I want everybody to know I did it. And he said, this is not reliable because people will like you one day and next day they won't like you. Today they will crown you. Tomorrow they will crucify you. If they did it to Lord Jesus, why wouldn't they do it for you? So you will be constantly disappointed, you know, with that kind of wanting. 19. Sometimes austerities are practiced in order to control, hurt, or destroy someone else, or out of foolish obstinacy, or out of mistaken belief that self-torture is somehow spiritually beneficial. Such disciplines are based on delusion and ignorance. I am reading this and it reminds me of somebody I met many years ago. Many years ago on one of my travels. She had a yoga teacher for over 20 years. Yeah, 20 years. It was one of my countries that I went to. And she came to see me. She came to one of the talks like this and she came to teach me. To speak to me privately. And she was telling me, oh, I've learned this from my teacher. I had my teacher 20 years. I love her so much. It's great. I host my teacher every year. Wonderful. I'm very glad you have your teacher. But my teacher is very angry with me. Why is she angry with you? Because she says, I can only follow her way. And I'm not allowed to follow any other teacher. And I said, no teacher will tell you that. A real teacher will let you find yourself. If her way is not good for you, you need to find yourself. The goal is not her, the goal is you. No, she said, I will be cursed, etc. I said, have you read the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali? Have you read even the Bible, New Testament? Have you read this and that? And she goes, yes. And I said, why are you brainwashed? You sound like you're brainwashed in fear. Anyway, what happened was, she loved the Bhagavad Gita. She really did, but she wasn't allowed to teach it because her teacher was the only one who was supposed to teach it. So I told her, read it again. I want you to read it again. And one of my friends was doing a study group in that country, and I asked her, her name is Gita actually, you know her, and I said, please, can you study it all together? Because you love the text too, and your friend knows so much, she can help you with it. And she got so told off by her teacher that the next visit there, she was trembling in fear. She showed me, in those days was cassettes, her teacher cursing her because she had joined this study group, literally saying, all the demons will have you. And I go, oh, you tell me, why are you even listening to this? I said, if I were you, I would just burn it. Why are you even, this is demonic. You know, she had so brainwashed in the 20 years that she had no sense of herself or what is right or wrong. And oh gosh, I couldn't believe that she was so manipulated. But then we see that, right? We've seen like David Koresh, you know, we've seen Jim Jones in the Guyana tragedy, he convinced 99 people to commit suicide because the police were finding out that they were a cult and was going to come to remove them. So there are people who do that. Be careful. Really be careful of these people because they have power, okay? They do have power because they do believe in a higher power, and they do practice this to get the power to manipulate people because it makes them feel good, and they're very lazy because they get all the people to do all the work for them so they don't have to do anything. They get all the money in for them, they get all the food in for them, everything. So be careful, and they sit back in a chair and they don't do much. So this is tamasic. You see how easy this is when you understand it? You can see 20. Now this is about gift giving, and this is really useful too. This is really practical. When you give something to someone simply because you feel it is right to give, and there is no thought of receiving anything in return, and it is given at the right moment, at the right place, to the right person, that is pure giving. It's so pure, and that it's so beautiful to receive when something is given with nothing in return, just pure love and pure giving. 21. If a gift is given reluctantly or in hopes of receiving a favor or anything else in return, that giving is motivated primarily by the desire of a restless mind. I gave you a gift, you better do me something in return. We all know people like that in our life. Now, when you feel a gift is given to you like that, it doesn't have good energy. If you have to receive it. And do a little mantra on it and pass it on with your love. But try not to keep it. Best if you don't even take it. But it's hard. In this life it doesn't work. So just bless it and move it on. If a gift, because everything has energy, right? 22. If a gift is given rudely or without affection to an inappropriate person at the wrong place, at the wrong time, that is giving from a state of dullness. So 21 is more talking about bribery, you know. I want to pass this exam, can I give you some money for it or whatever. 22 is more talking about people in the world of drugs and, you know, all this kind of wishy-washy stuff that people do, I don't know, illegal stuff, etc. Do this for me and give you this gift, but don't really want to give it to you, but giving it to you because you're doing the dirty job. It's all that kind of yucky stuff. You don't want to get involved in that. So note the type of gifts, and always remember, gifts come with energy. So when you get the energy of love, if you love that gift, it will give you it will empower you. If a gift is given with something wanting in return, it will bind you. And corruption, it will kill you. In the end, it will kill you. So The three words that represent the absolute Brahman or divine energy are Om, Tat, Sat. It means Om, it is as it is. Om, it is the truth. Om, Tat, Sat. Out of this mantra arose the spiritual wisdom, Brahmanas, the scriptures and Vedas and self-sacrifice. So he said, just from this one mantra, it is as it is the truth. All of it is the truth. So we are one kind of thing. So everything originated from this one mantra. In the beginning, there was the Word was God, and the Word was made flesh, right? The Bible. And in our Hindu scriptures, it came with sound. So with this mantra, with this energy, with this vibration, everything came into being. Students of scripture repeat the word Om when undertaking spiritual disciplines, making devotional offerings, and giving to charity. So when you are doing all these things, you use the mantra. This is why we have initiation mantras as well, to constantly say the mantra. So when you say the mantras, you are already connected to the right radio station or the vibrational frequency, as they call it today. 25. Students of scripture who seek enlightenment, freedom, also repeat the word Tat, Tat, to ensure that the undertaking of spiritual disciplines, devotional offering, and giving charity will have no taint of personal reward seeking. So you do charity for the sake of doing charity, because you want to, etc., but you don't want anything in return. And this is how our charity sis is run as well. You know, anybody with ego comes along, we're not interested. We always like to give and forget about it. And I think I have a great team, integral yoga team in Gibraltar and here in Spain, that give like that. When we give something, you know, we work really hard for Christmas, packing the campus like Ula, but we want nothing in return. We really don't. And my whole team is like that. Just the joy of being able to give it gives us so much joy. Why do you want to get connected? And like I said, I'm really blessed to have such a great team who feel the same as I do. There's so many good people around. Because it's done in the truth, nothing is ours anyway. In the end, we can take nothing. Sat means reality, that which is, and indicates goodness. Therefore, its use, Arjuna, blesses an undertaking with auspiciousness. 27. Sat also describes steady and continuous self-sacrifice, self-discipline, selfless giving. Sat is also anything you do as part of these three, which in fact is actually serving God. So this is the energy which you need when you are serving people, even when you are a healer. People who are healers and they have patience, you just do Om Tat Sat. Let me be truthful to the highest order. May your job be done. Whether this person is healed is not in my hands. All I can do is the best I can do. Repeat the mantra. Do a prayer. St. Francis's prayer. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Lord, make me an instrument of your healing. If it's meant to be, it will. And if it's not, it's their dharma. My job is to do it with love. Just to do it with love. Om Tat Sat. Remember that when you start your work, any job. 28. However, any sacrifice offered, gift given, duty performed, or spiritual discipline taken on without Shraddha is not worthwhile, because it is asat, not the truth. Thus ends the 17th discourse of the Bhagavad Gita, the science of yoga, entitled Yoga of the Threefold Faith. So, I think it's very clear, and it helps us to understand a little bit about how we want to practice. You know, what are the aims? What are the goals? And he said, different people have faith, but do it in different ways. It's not that they don't. I mean, you read in today's world, how many people pray, they go to church to pray to overcome another kingdom or to kill somebody. You know, you had in India what we call the Thuggis. You have black magic, right? You have voodoo, you have all these things. They pray, they do pray, but they pray, what would you call it? Tamasic? Rajasic? Horrible. They're not, they use the power. I always say God is a powerhouse of love, but it's a powerhouse. So if you want, it gives you what you want. So it gives you what you want, but if what you want is evil, that is your own karma. Evil will come back to you. It gives you everything. It's just love. It's like a power station. So if all you want is good and kindness and wonderful things, this is what's going to come to you. One gives a lot of suffering. One gives you peace and freedom. See, God doesn't. That's the freedom we have to choose. So when you read this, and anybody falling into the qualities of wanting something back in return, when you read this, you'll see, oh my God, it's true. Whenever I want something back in return, I get disappointed, I get upset, Do I really want that? I prefer peace, right? Then you can make the shift. This is the reason for spiritual study. It can happen. Sometimes it just, boom, one thing that triggers. So reading these scriptures helps each one of us. It's just showing us there are so many different types of people in this world. Do we judge them? No. What you do is purify yourself. That's all we can do. Make ourselves the best we can. Full stop. We can't do more. We can share then what we know with others. When they're in pain, they need some compassion, they need some love. We can share that because we are strong. We can hold them when they feel like they're going to collapse. That's all we can do. That's all we can leave behind. Everything else is worth nothing. And it really isn't. Everything else, when you lose the body, it stays behind.